The Admiral's laughter carried through the command deck like polished metal scraping glass. "One ship?" he said, voice dripping mockery. A relic with delusions of relevance. The bridge joined him. Officers, aides, even the comm technicians, each laughing in practiced obedience. On the main viewport, the human vessel Iron Rain drifted through the void. Dull gray plating, visible weld seams, ancient by every metric. To them, it wasn't a warship. It was theater. "Zoom the feed," the Admiral ordered. The holographic projection expanded, revealing details. Surface scars, exposed conduits, hull code etched in English text. "Handmade," he said, grinning. You can almost smell the desperation. A junior aide hesitated. "Sir, it's emitting minimal radiation. No visible dry flare. Dead systems, Lieutenant. Or superstition. Humans always pray before extinction. Retention microspike. Mockery is comfort in the presence of the unknown." The fleet, 10,000 ships arrayed in imperial symmetry, glowed gold against the void. Each vessel pulsed with active shields and perfect discipline. The Admiral took pride in the order. He saw himself as the keeper of civilization. He glanced again at the human dreadnought. "Patch me to fleet broadcast. Connected, sir." He straightened his collar and spoke with ceremonial ease. "To all observers of the Dominion Armada, witness our patience. The Terran species sends forth its last relic, unaware that history already closed its chapter. Let this encounter mark the final page." Applause echoed through the bridge. Cameras rotated for the galactic net, capturing his poise, his confidence. "Status on human communications?" he asked. "Minimal, Admiral. One open frequency. No encoded bursts." "Translate it." Static filled the room, then a flat, calm voice. "We acknowledge your presence. Non-interference requested, that was all." 8 words, the Admiral smirked. "Non-interference? They presume parity." He gestured toward the projection. "Tell the analyst to catalog this as anthropological theater. The Empire deserves to study its fossils." Retention microspike. He mistook discipline for decay. He poured himself a glass of amber fluid. "Signal the broadcast hubs. Begin documentation of their surrender." The communications officer hesitated. "Sir, they haven't surrendered." "They will." He tapped the rim of his glass. "Once the first salvo lands, no one survives kinetic exposure. A mercy, really." Outside the viewport, stars shifted slightly as Iron Rain adjusted position. No thrust burn, no emission spike, just a silent drift. The movement unsettled some on the bridge, though none dared say so. "Sir," another voice said, "the Terran vessel maintains hull alignment directly toward us. It's locked orientation since entry." "Then it wishes to die looking at its betters," the Admiral replied. "So be it." He waved for tactical readiness. 1,000 cruisers rotated their forward arcs, locking firing solutions. Range? 23,000 kilometers. Closing slowly. "Fine, maintain broadcast visibility. Let the sectors witness efficiency." A second officer spoke softly. "Admiral, do you wish to issue a warning shot?" "Why warn stone?" He looked back at the ship's scarred hull. "Artifacts don't hear." For a moment, the Admiral allowed himself to admire the contrast. The brilliance of his fleet. The dull weight of humanity's ghost. Somewhere deep inside, a flicker of doubt whispered, but he drowned it in pride. "Record my statement for the archives," he said. "Let posterity note, the Terran line ends today, not with fury but with irrelevance." The command crew bowed their heads in reverent acknowledgement. Across the Dominion, citizens tuned in to see the so-called last Terran warship, expecting collapse, expecting spectacle. None imagined what silence could mean. Retention microspike. They mocked what they could not measure. "Admiral," the aide said quietly, "the human ship is transmitting again." He frowned. "Patch it through." The voice came soft, precise, devoid of emotion. "Observation begins." No one spoke. The Admiral's glass trembled in his hand, though he didn't know why. On the display, the Iron Rain's hull shimmered faintly, temperature rising 2 degrees, then stabilizing. No weapon fire, no threat. Just presence. He set the glass down carefully. "Observation," he repeated. "So they think they're the Watchers." He smiled for the cameras again, though it didn't reach his eyes. "Let them watch." Outside, 10,000 ships gleamed in perfect formation, every captain certain of dominance. Inside the Terran dreadnought, unseen, systems stirred, quiet, patient, awake. The laughter of the Dominion fleet faded against the endless dark. The warp shimmer tore open above Kareth Gate, silent, surgical, inevitable. From its heart emerged a single shape, the Terran dreadnought Iron Rain. No escort, no fleet. Just one ship sliding out of folded light like a knife drawn from a sheath. The Dominion formation adjusted immediately. 10,000 Imperial warships arrayed in a perfect golden lattice shifted their vectors with mechanical precision. To the galaxy, this was order confronting chaos. To humanity, it was theater. Object confirmed, a voice reported across the Imperial net. Human signature verified. Energy output minimal. Armor composition archaic. The words echoed through 100 bridges, each captain repeating the same conclusion. Relic. Outdated, harmless. Inside the Iron Rain, Commander Elias Ward stood at the forward viewport. The ship's internal lighting remained dim. Half power to minimize profile, full discipline to maintain poise. Status, he asked. Lieutenant Mara Vance's voice was calm. Reactor stable. Shield grid synchronized. External scans complete. No immediate aggression, sir. Ward nodded. Maintain silence protocol. Retention microspike. Stillness is its own declaration. The ship drifted toward the gate's perimeter, 900 kilometers wide, its arcs lined with Imperial carriers and interceptors. A voice cracked across the open channel, translated through the Rain's linguistic grid. Unidentified Terran vessel. You have entered controlled space. Submit to escort and inspection. Vance looked to Ward. Response, Commander? He folded his hands behind his back. Transmit standard Article 9 acknowledgement. No deviation. Yes, sir. Her voice was level when it carried over the broadcast. Kareth Command, this is the Terran vessel Iron Rain. Transit recognized. Escort unnecessary. We retain navigational autonomy. The bridge crew of the Rain went quiet again, their heartbeat steady against the faint vibration of sub-reactor cycling. No one looked at the view feed of the Dominion ships. No one needed to. They'd already studied the enemy for years. Across the net, laughter answered them. Autonomy? An Imperial captain mocked. You mistake permission for parody. Another voice followed, sharper. Maintain position, Terran relic. Disarm and await retrieval. Ward didn't react. Distance. 24,000 kilometers and closing, Vance said. Hold heading. Outside, the Dominion formation began to constrict, each warship folding its orbit inward to form a perfect sphere around the lone human dreadnought. Sensor halos overlapped like luminous petals around a predator they believed caged. Commander, Vance said, they're cycling targeting arrays. 3 degrees variance across outer sectors. Ward's voice didn't change. Log sequence. Continue passive mode. Retention microspike. Patience is preparation, disguised as surrender. The Dominion flagship Seraph Ascendant opened full-spectrum broadcast. The Admiral's tone was ceremonial, already certain of history. To the remnant of Terran command, your technology, sovereignty, and legacy are subject to lawful annexation. You will stand down immediately or be neutralized. There will be no trial, no delay. Ward watched the transmission without expression. The galaxy's finest fleet, speaking with the arrogance of inheritance. He'd heard that voice before, from pirates, empires, even human tyrants. Always the same, always wrong. Helm, he said quietly. Adjust orientation to zero drift. Present bow vector. The Rain rotated by a fraction of a degree, barely perceptible on radar, unmistakable to the watching fleet. The maneuver was ancient, military and human. Refusal without words. Sir, Vance said, Imperial fleet is marking our rotation as threat display. He nodded. It should. A new voice pierced comms, tense, irritated. Terran vessel, clarify your intent. Ward replied evenly. Observation. Nothing more, static followed. Then the Imperial Admiral's laughter returned, brittle now. Observation. You stand before 10,000 ships. You are not an observer. You are an artifact. Ward didn't blink. Artifacts endure. Retention microspike. Mockery feeds the calm before revelation. Vance's sensors flared with new data. Admiral's fleet shifting to offensive posture. Partial energy flux, 40% weapon charge. Ward's voice remained cold iron. Record timestamp. Begin internal synchronization cycle. Do not engage. Yes, sir. In the silence that followed, The Iron Rain systems pulsed once, barely visible blue light running across its hull seams. Power reallocation began at 0.7% per second, impossible for the untrained eye to detect. The Dominion ships, confident in their superiority, began transmitting live feeds to the Galactic network, millions of viewers across the stars, watching the Terran museum piece drift into its final. Our ward looked out at the gate, a golden ring of civilization built to confine others. They think this is spectacle, he said quietly. Vance replied, then we'll teach them scale. From the Dominion perspective, the human ship didn't move, didn't speak, didn't even threaten. But every motionless second was preparation, the controlled breathing before a predator moves. Ward watched the sensor overlay ripple as the Imperial targeting grids aligned. They're waiting for the command, he murmured. So are we. Retention microspike. Stillness is strategy in disguise. Outside, the stars dimmed slightly as the gate's power grid adjusted to accommodate firing protocols. The countdown had begun, though none of the Imperials realized whose countdown it truly was. Ward exhaled once, calm and absolute. Let them make the first mistake, he said. The ship held its position, a single line of gray against the glow of 1,000 gold. When the first beam came, the Iron Rain did not flinch. The first lance came without ceremony. A line of pure white fire cut through vacuum and struck the Iron Rain amidships. No explosion, no debris, just a ripple of heat that shimmered along her hull like sunrise through glass. Impact registered, Lieutenant Vance reported, voice steady. Thermal spike within range. Outer mesh temperature 1,330 Kelvin. Damage? Ward asked. 91% absorbed into ablative core, 9% redirected into dispersal grid. No structural loss. Across the Dominion formation, disbelief rippled faster than any command. Thousands of ships, hundreds of admirals, all watching the impossible occur in absolute silence. Retention microspike. Numbers can silence gods. The admiral aboard the Seraph Ascendant leaned forward, eyes narrowing. Confirm the reading. No material can absorb that yield. Confirmed, sir, came the technician's trembling voice. They should be vapor. Inside the Iron Rain, the bridge remained quiet. Energy diagrams scrolled across the displays. Neat, measured, beautiful. Heat transfer balanced at 0.0 drift. The dreadnought was feeding. Commander, Vance said. Internal capacitors climbing. Efficiency exceeding simulation by 4%. Ward didn't look away from the viewport. Record it. They'll want proof later. Another barrage followed. 12 synchronized beams from 12 directions. Each strike burned bright for 6 seconds. When the glare faded, the hull cooled again, black turning to steel. The plating's seams shifted microscopically, shedding scorched layers, replacing them with fresh armor from beneath. Outer composite renewal complete, reported engineering. Ward nodded once. Cycle confirmation to fleet archive. Retention microspike. They threw stars. Humanity measured thermals. On the Dominion flagship, confusion hardened into panic. They are converting energy, shouted one officer. Their armor is active, self-regulating. Impossible, snapped the admiral. Primitive designs don't evolve mid-strike. The admiral's feed went public by accident. Thousands of observers watching the Golden Fleet face something it could neither kill nor comprehend. The next volley hesitated mid-command. Even arrogance requires certainty. In the rain's silence, Ward spoke again. Power redistribution report. Core load at 72%. Capacitor stable. Reactor temperature nominal. And the fleet? Imperial comms fragmented. Multiple command channels arguing source interpretation. Ward exhaled. Calm. Precise. That's phase 1. Vance looked up. Sir, recommend showing damage tolerance for broadcast analysis. He almost smiled. No, let them wonder what broke. Outside, the Dominion ships adjusted positions, some backing off, some closing distance as if proximity could explain physics. Their data models began collapsing under contradiction. The Terran ship had survived 300 terajoules of directed energy with 0 degradation. Commander, Vance said softly, their scanners are focusing on our reactor signature. Then feed them light, Ward said. The hull brightened, glowing faintly from absorbed radiation, a visible taunt. The human ship looked alive now, its plating breathing with faint pulses of refracted energy. On the Dominion bridge, a captain whispered, "They're mocking us." The admiral slammed his fist into the console. "Increase yield by 200%. I want that hull gone." 10 more beams fired in unison. The void filled with fire. The iron rain disappeared behind a wash of incandescent gold. For 20 full seconds it was light alone. Then the light broke. The dreadnought emerged untouched. Hull temperature normal. System steady. Reactor output slightly increased. On every Dominion sensor, one anomaly repeated thermal return. Vance read it aloud. "We're feeding excess heat into radiation dispersal. External conversion complete. Meaning?" Ward asked. She met his gaze. "We're charging off their weapons, retention microspike. They fed us fire. We called it fuel. On the Dominion command net, silence stretched too long. Then came the sound of confusion, disbelief, and anger. 3 tones no Empire survives combined. "Human vessel," the Admiral shouted across the channel. "What trick is this?" Ward's reply was as measured as breath. "Physics." The word echoed across open bands, replayed, analyzed, feared. Physics didn't negotiate. Physics didn't flinch. The Admiral's voice cracked. "You mock," Ward interrupted, tone quiet but final. "We adapt." Another pulse struck. Another flare of white. Another silence. Numbers scrolled across human consoles like prayers of precision. Impact yield: 1.2 petajoules. Absorption ratio 91.3%. Redirection vector 8.7%. "Crew heart rates unchanged, Commander," Vance said. "The Empire's fire patterns are deteriorating. Their formations drifting by 0.7%. Ward clasped his hands behind his back. "Arrogance is inefficient. Retention microspike. Discipline isn't noise, it's the void that answers." Outside, the golden formation flickered, energy halos destabilizing. The human dreadnought hovered at the center like an unspoken verdict, gray and calm against the storm. Ward glanced at the chrono. "Mark the time," he said softly. "Now the learning begins." Silence broke with movement. The iron rain ignited. No fanfare, no roar, just the deep harmonic rumble of plasma channels opening along its spine. Thrusters flared blue-white, carving sharp vectors through the void. Every Dominion sensor lit red at once. "Velocity rising," Lieutenant Vance reported. "Mach 18-20-23, Ward's voice was calm. "Stabilize at 26. Keep rotation locked to forward vector." Outside, the dreadnought's hull pulsed as stabilizers engaged, 1,000 microflares dancing across armor plates. The Dominion formation, once a flawless sphere of order, began to distort. Retention microspike. Perfection collapses faster than fear. Across 10,000 ships, captains shouted overlapping commands. "Adjust bearing! Correct spacing!" But the dreadnought's acceleration shredded their geometry. It wasn't speed, it was intent given motion. The iron rain cut through the center like a blade through mist. Proximity sensors screamed. A destroyer spun out of formation, collision alarms cascading. 2 cruisers overcorrected, colliding at 40 meters per second. Catastrophic but silent in vacuum. Ward watched it all through the forward viewport, face expressionless. "Range to flagship?" 8,000 kilometers, said Vance. "They're recalibrating targeting locks. Multiple ships breaking alignment." "Good," he said. "Let them think chaos is ours. Retention microspike. Control is the quiet between impacts." The dreadnought adjusted trajectory. One precise yaw correction of 0.07 degrees, and the entire Imperial wing panicked. To maintain visual focus, they tried to mirror the turn. Their over-reliance on optical synchronization created blind overlap zones, and ships began vanishing into one another's sensor ghosts. "They're fighting their own data," Vance murmured. Ward nodded. "We designed for that." Inside the bridge, every motion was calculated. Engineering reported sustained thrust pressure within parameters. Power reserve steady at 93%. External radiation at 3.4 terawatts. Harvested, not spent. Mach 26 confirmed, said Vance. Relative closing speed increasing at 12 kilometers per second. Ward's eyes stayed fixed on the drifting Imperial flagship. Mark firing vectors, no launch. Confirmed. The Dominion Admiral appeared on the comm feed again, his face distorted by stress and disbelief. "Terran vessel, you are violating ceasefire radius." Ward's tone was level. Then back away, no threat. No emotion. Just arithmetic in human form. The Admiral's response was fury. You cannot maneuver at those velocities in proximity space. You'll tear yourselves apart, Ward replied. Then watch. Outside, the iron rain banked again. The motion looked impossible, an angular correction that defied standard thrust sequencing. Plasma trails coiled around her wake like lightning trapped in amber. Retention microspike. Mach 26. Perfect silence. At this speed, even the Dominion's neural prediction arrays couldn't track. The Dreadnought's vector math made it look omnipresent. There one moment, gone the next. The fleet's cohesion disintegrated into a sprawl of golden fragments trying to maintain formation around a ghost. Commander, Vance said. They're colliding with their own flanking units. 18 confirmed impacts, Ward didn't blink. Keep logging. Every failure is evidence. Across the fleet, emergency beacons flashed. 1,000 AI nav systems crashed under data overload. Imperial command channels degraded into noise. Too many voices shouting corrections no one could follow. In the void between those broken formations, the iron rain moved like a predator cutting through a herd. Each thruster pulse was a statement, each maneuver a sentence written in physics. We're not bound by your rules. Ward stepped closer to the viewport. Vance, yes, sir? Bring the rail capacitors to full charge. We'll need them ready when they understand what they've provoked. Aye. Full saturation in 3 minutes. Retention microspike. Speed is Mercy's shadow. It arrives before the warning does. Sensors painted chaos. Dominion ships colliding. Formations drifting. Hundreds of kilometers of once perfect alignment unraveling into debris fields. From the perspective of the galactic observers, the feed looked like simulation error, a rendering glitch on reality itself. Ward folded his hands behind his back. Phase 2 complete, he said quietly. Now they know motion can be moral. The Dreadnought's engines dimmed slightly, maintaining cruising velocity. The Golden Armada, once the symbol of Dominion order, now floated in broken symmetry. Mach 26 held steady. The void listened. The first round left the rails at Mach 34, no warning, no declaration, just motion turned into consequence. 12 tungsten slugs tore across 9,000 kilometers of void in a single heartbeat. Sensors on the Dominion flagship recorded only the shock waves as their escorts vanished. 12 ships gone, erased so fast their distress codes never registered. Lieutenant Vance's voice was quiet, clinical. Impact confirmations 12 of 12. No return fire. Reload and retarget, Ward said. Retention microspike. Violence without noise is discipline. The iron rain's magnetic rails sang again, 12 blue arcs flickering along its flanks. Each firing cycle took 0.8 seconds. Every slug, 28 tons of tungsten alloy, impact velocity 11 kilometers per second, yield equivalent to 340 megatons. The Dominion fleet began to move, too late. Their defense algorithms weren't written for this kind of war. Energy shields could refract beams, not stop metal that moved faster than thought. Enemy formation collapsing, Vance said. Flank Delta losing synchronization. Ward didn't raise his voice. Log timestamp. Continue engagement sequence. The next volley hit 40 ships in under a second, then 80, then hundreds. The Dominion comms fractured into chaos. Admirals screamed orders that couldn't reach through jamming interference and data latency. Targeting grids blinked out. Coordinators demanded retreat vectors that no longer existed. From above the battlefield, the Dreadnought looked motionless, only the faint glint of muzzle flash betraying its activity. Every pulse meant destruction too fast for sight, too precise for emotion. Retention microspike. Precision can be mercy. Confirmed kills 1-800, said Vance. Time elapsed 47 seconds. Mark, Ward replied. He didn't smile. He didn't speak again for a full minute. The bridge was a cathedral of silence, only the rhythmic pulse of weapon systems filling the void. The iron. Rain's onboard AI calculated new trajectories, 32,000 independent, firing solutions per second. Every Dominion vessel's heat signature was mapped, every shield fluctuation tracked. Each kill was recorded, archived, verified. At T+180 seconds, the casualty counter hit 6,000 ships. The fleet that once filled the stars now looked like fractured gold dust drifting through black. Mach velocity confirmed steady, Vance reported. Rails cooling automatically. Core temperature stable. Ward's tone was quiet. Continue. Don't waste potential. Outside, a Dominion battleship launched counterfire, an arc of plasma wider than cities. The Iron Rain's outer hull shimmered, redirecting 87% of the energy, dispersing the rest through its armor seams. The weapon's recoil destroyed the firing ship. The feed went galactic. Billions watched as their invincible empire dissolved in statistical clarity. Every strike logged in real time, each number a requiem. Retention microspike. 9,800 ships, 360 seconds. Zero mercy requested. Commander, Vance said. Flagship attempting retreat through Kareth Gate. Ward turned toward tactical. Vector. Gate alignment unstable. If they jump, they'll scatter across half a system. Let them choose their hell. He stepped closer to the viewport, eyes reflecting the faint blue glow of their rails. Initiate final salvo. Full velocity, no fragmentation. 12 barrels realigned. Power distribution climbed to 100%. The deck hummed. The air tasted like ozone. Ready, said Vance. Mark and release. 12 slugs fired simultaneously. No flash, no sound, just kinetic truth. The flagship's image distorted, then folded in on itself. Metal turning liquid, liquid turning nothing. The Kareth Gate behind it shattered like glass, its golden ring fracturing into silent shards. The light faded. Only wreckage remained, drifting like ash in a current that no longer existed. Vance's voice was soft. All hostiles neutralized. Duration, 5 minutes, 58 seconds. Ward exhaled once, steady. Cease fire. Log completion under Article 1, Doctrine of Response. The bridge went still. No celebration, no noise. Only the slow, rhythmic beeping of systems verifying what humanity already knew. They hadn't won by rage. They'd won by math, retention microspike. 6 minutes. 10,000 dead. One ship still silent. Commander, Vance whispered. What do we transmit to the Council? Ward looked at the ruin, the fading gold dust that had once been the Empire's pride. Transmit nothing, he said. They'll hear the silence. The guns went silent before the echoes faded. Every rail cooled in sequence, blue light fading to gray. Across the void, the remnants of the Dominion fleet drifted through their own wreckage, scattered, burning, terrified. 98% of their formation was gone. The survivors didn't move. They didn't even try. Commander Ward stood motionless at the forward viewport of the Iron Rain. Status, he said quietly. Primary engagement complete, Vance replied. No return fire detected. Reactor stable at 74% capacity. Combat readiness maintained. Cease all offensive operations, Ward ordered. Full stop. The command echoed through the dreadnought like scripture. Turret servos locked. Capacitors cycled down. Even the vibration of the rails subsided until the bridge felt suspended between heartbeats. Retention microspike. Power means knowing when not to use it. Ward leaned forward, eyes tracking the glowing wreckage outside. Patch me to all surviving Dominion vessels, he said. Vance hesitated. Open channel confirmed, sector-wide. Ward's voice filled the stars, transmitted through every functioning Imperial relay. Calm, steady, inevitable. This is Commander Elias Ward of the Terran dreadnought Iron Rain. Hostilities have ceased. Your command structure is gone. Your empire stands in violation of Articles 7 and 12 of the Interstellar Conduct Accords. Engagement without declaration, use of planetary civilians as proximity shields, and war crimes against surrendered forces. You will power down your weapons and prepare for tribunal under Terran oversight. No further strikes will be made unless provoked. Across the Dominion network, static was the only reply. No one dared speak first. Then one cruiser blinked its navigation lights twice, compliance. Another followed. Then another. Within minutes, hundreds. Vance whispered, They're standing down. Ward nodded once. Log every signal. Mark coordinates for recovery operations. On the Seraph Ascendant's shattered bridge, what remained of the Dominion admiral stared at his console, bleeding through his uniform. His officers waited for the order to fight, but it didn't come. His voice cracked. Tell them, we yield. Retention microspike. Surrender isn't defeat. It's recognition. Inside the Iron Rain, the atmosphere changed. No cheers, no relief. Just duty. The crew moved like ritual, logging survivors, routing med drones, and transmitting aid coordinates. "Commander," said Vance. "Dominion distress beacons detected. Civilian transports in Grid 8 requesting medical assistance." Ward looked out at the field of fire still cooling in the dark. "Send everything we can spare. Doctrine of restraint applies in full." The words carried weight. The doctrine wasn't written in policy. It was carved into memory. Strike only when struck. Stop when balance is restored. Rescue pods launched from the Iron Rain's underbelly, small silver specks diving into the wreck fields. For the first time since the engagement began, the human ship didn't look like a weapon. It looked like judgment made merciful. On distant colonies, the live broadcast was still running. Billions watched as humanity's flagship ceased its barrage and began saving the very enemies who had mocked them. News anchors couldn't find words. Analysts whispered that this act, the halt, the mercy, would change galactic law forever. Vance's console beeped. "We're receiving transmissions from outlying Dominion fleets. They're asking if surrender guarantees safety." Ward didn't hesitate. "Affirm it. Protection under tribunal until verdict. No exceptions." She nodded and sent the message. Retention microspike. Mercy enforced as civilization reborn. Minutes passed. The fires dimmed. Wreckage drifted silently between cooling embers. Ward exhaled. "Mark the time, cessation of combat, Phase 3 complete." "Logged," Vance said softly. "Do we notify Fleet Command?" "Not yet. Let the galaxy watch first." He turned back to the viewport. The scarred ring of Kareth Gate reflected across the dreadnought's hull. "They wanted to teach us fear," he murmured. "Instead, they'll remember restraint." The bridge fell quiet again, lit only by the slow blink of the rescue operations grid. The war was over, but the lesson had just begun. At first, the void seemed empty. Only wreckage drifted in quiet orbits, gold shards glinting against the light of dying reactors. The Dominion survivors believed the battle was done, that humanity's single dreadnought had delivered its judgment and gone still. They were wrong. "Commander," Vance said from her console, "we're detecting unusual magnetic shadows along grid sectors 1 through 9. Distances consistent with mass displacement fields." Ward didn't look up. "Time index?" "Steady, no drift. Pattern too uniform for debris." He gave a single nod. "Signal the custodian line." Across the dark space folded quietly, deliberately. One after another, shapes emerged from the void like predators rising from fog. 70 vessels, each bearing the Terran insignia of the custodian fleet, decloaked from the shadow bands of the Kareth Gate's dead light. Retention microspike. The silence was never empty. It was hiding discipline. Their hulls were darker than night itself, light eaters built for patience and precision. No transponders, no flare, just 70 black silhouettes drifting in perfect formation, all facing inward toward the shattered Dominion core. "Mass confirmation," Vance whispered. 70 custodian warships, Type 7 interceptors, stealth class. Ward finally looked up. Exactly as planned. The Dominion channels erupted into chaos. Multiple Terran signatures detected. "Impossible! Sensor spoofing!" Another voice shouted. "They've been here the whole time." Across the Iron Rain's bridge, no one smiled. They'd spent years building this, training in secret, deploying under stealth grids, embedding within deep field shadows that the Dominion arrogantly considered uninhabitable. Every piece of the battle was not improvisation but architecture. "Commander," Vance said, "custodian flagships request operational authority confirmation." "Granted," Ward said. "Transmit order Echo 7. Contain, not annihilate." 70 confirmations blinked in response. The custodian ships shifted formation, their drives igniting in synchronized pulses, soft, precise, lethal. They weren't there to destroy what was left. They were there to make sure humanity's mercy wasn't mistaken for weakness. Retention microspike. Mercy needs teeth to be remembered. The Dominion survivors stared through fractured viewports, watching black ships bloom out of nothing. Every trajectory surrounded them in surgical rings, corridors of controlled containment. Escape vectors collapsed. No ship moved without being tracked. "They're encircling," said one broken admiral aboard a crippled frigate. "There's nowhere to run," his aide whispered. "Then why aren't they firing?" Because restraint had replaced revenge. Humanity was showing the kind of control that empires forgot how to fear. Vance's readings flickered with precision. Containment perimeter stable. 70 ships, 100 kilometers spacing. Weapon systems charged but locked under command code Greyline. Ward folded his hands behind his back. Good. Let them see what planning looks like. For centuries, the Dominion had believed humanity's chaos made them dangerous. They had never understood that the chaos was a mask, a calculated misdirection concealing decades of discipline. Ward studied the tactical feed. Phase 4. Establish tricordons. Deploy rescue and tribunal vessels. No more combat. Vance hesitated. We're showing open transmission requests from their civilian sectors. Patch them through, he said. The Dominion's desperate voice filled the channel. Terran Commander, how long have your ships been here? Ward answered evenly. Long enough to decide restraint before fire. Retention microspike. Preparation is the final weapon. He turned to the custodian fleet transmission grid. Activate beacon synchronization, he ordered. 70 ships pulsed once in sequence. A wave of faint blue light that rippled across the debris field like a heartbeat. It wasn't a warning. It was an announcement. Every Dominion sensor recorded the event. Every observer in the galaxy saw the pattern. Humanity hadn't survived by luck. They'd prepared for this confrontation before it ever began. Commander, Vance said softly. Fleet Command requests a statement for the record. Ward's answer came calm and certain. Mark it simply, the Hidden Legion revealed. No further resistance. Doctrine of custody in effect. On screen, the custodian ships adjusted into holding pattern. Their engines dimmed, their weapons retracted. The visual was chilling. A black crown around the remains of a golden empire. The Dominion broadcast feeds began to flood with commentary, disbelief shifting to awe. The galaxy's mightiest fleet had been undone not by power but by patience. Humanity hadn't just won. They'd orchestrated inevitability. Ward watched the stars realign through the viewport. Containment verified, said Vance. Then let them breathe, Ward said quietly. Fear needs air to grow. The custodian fleet held their formation. Immovable, silent, omnipresent. The galaxy finally understood. Humanity didn't need numbers. They needed time. The void was no longer quiet. It pulsed with urgency. All across the wrecked systems near Kareth Gate, evacuation beacons flickered through ash-gray light. The Dominion civilians, once protected by Imperial arrogance, now cried for rescue through broken channels. Commander, Vance reported, humanitarian transmissions confirmed from 9 sectors. Total displaced population 22 million. Ward's tone remained even. Deploy the second horizon. At once, 30 Terran relief convoys decloaked from the shadow of the custodian perimeter. Their hulls bore no cannons, no war markings, only the white insignia of the doctrine of mercy. They flew under escort from 12 custodian ships, their drives humming in synchronized resonance. Retention microspike. After war, order must move faster than grief. The Dominion's shattered vessels blinked their nav lights in disbelief. They're rescuing us, murmured one captain, her voice faint across open bands. After this? Ward stood before the viewport, the ghostly reflection of his own ship mirrored against the incoming fleet. Yes, he said quietly, after this. The iron rain coordinated the exodus with precision that bordered on impossible. Cargo holds became triage centers, military transports reconfigured into hospital wards. Drone swarms wove through debris fields, dragging escape pods toward safety. Vance called updates as they came. Evacuation rate increasing. 2 million transferred. 3.1 million stabilized. 5 million underway. Ward didn't respond. His eyes tracked the horizon, where hyperspace ripples marked new arrivals. Reinforcements, she whispered. Imperial warships, 100 strong, fell out of warp in perfect lines of vengeance. The Dominion still had power, but no clarity. Range? 14,000 kilometers and closing. They're broadcasting surrender demands for our withdrawal. Ward exhaled. Transmit Article 12, Humanitarian Corridor declared. Any interference constitutes war crime. Across the comm grid, the Imperial reinforcements hesitated. They'd been told the humans were savages. What they saw instead were rescue operations in progress. Terran medships ferrying Dominion children to safety, drones repairing oxygen conduits on alien cruisers, soldiers handing out rations to enemies, retention microspike. Compassion confuses empires more than gunfire ever could. The Imperial commander's voice broke through the static. Terran flagship disengage. You have no jurisdiction here, Ward replied calmly. We do now. You forfeited it when you burned the innocent. Your relief ships will be destroyed if they remain. Ward didn't blink. You've already destroyed enough. We're done watching. He turned to tactical. Custodian line advanced by 100 kilometers. Keep weapons cold. No first strike. The custodian fleet moved in eerie silence, forming a black wall between the humanitarian convoys and the advancing Dominion armada. Vance read out sensor data. Reinforcements deploying flares. Weapons at half charge. Ward's gaze didn't waver. Lock magnetic rails. No fire until contact breach. For 12 long seconds the standoff held. Two civilizations facing each other over a sea of wounded ships and drifting life pods. Then a Dominion frigate, nervous and trembling, fired a warning beam. The custodian line didn't return fire. Instead, their hulls shimmered, absorbing the blast, redirecting it into harmless plasma mist. The visual was broadcast across every frequency. Billions watched as humanity refused escalation. Retention microspike. Restraint seen as faith restored. The Dominion flagship's comm went silent, its officers arguing off-screen. Then quietly its weapons powered down. One by one, the other reinforcements followed.
No order given.
No surrender declared. Just the universal language of exhaustion. Ward's voice filled the vacuum. This battle is over. Evacuate your civilians. Tend to your wounded. The galaxy doesn't need another empire. It needs a conscience. On the sensor display, new readings bloomed. Evacuation complete, Vance said. 22 million lives secured. Ward closed his eyes. Transmit logs to all sectors. Show them who we chose to be. The relief convoys began to retreat, engines glowing soft white against the dark. The custodian fleet reformed around them like a shepherd's circle, unyielding, patient, watchful. Vance turned to her commander. What do we call this operation? Ward answered without pause. The Second Horizon. She nodded, entering it into the fleet archive. Retention microspike. Survival isn't victory. It's proof of what comes next. As the Terran ship slipped beyond the fractured gate, light rippled across their wake, golden fragments reflecting off black armor. Humanity had turned destruction into protection, and in that act, rewritten the meaning of power. The war had ended, but the silence carried its own gravity. In the hangar decks of the Iron Rain, rows of stretchered survivors lay beneath sterile white light. Dominion soldiers, Imperial officers, civilians, species once sworn to destroy humanity, now shared air aboard a ship that had nearly annihilated their fleets. Lieutenant Vance walked the central corridor, her boots echoing softly. Med drones hovered in constant motion, disinfecting, injecting, healing. Every heartbeat, every breath was recorded, logged, and broadcast to the galactic net. The entire galaxy was watching the impossible. Humanity showing mercy. Commander, she said quietly. Medical intake now exceeds 112,000. Overflow transferring to custodian auxiliaries. Ward stood near the observation deck, arms folded behind his back. Triage protocol? Article 9 in effect. Criticals first, regardless of species. No segregation, he nodded. Maintain retention microspike. Mercy isn't words, it's process. Across the comm grid, Dominion captains reported the same scene. Terran crews hauling wounded enemies aboard. Surgeons speaking calm directives through translators. Human Marines carrying stretchers without rifles. No trophies. No humiliation. Just order and discipline. The galaxy's feeds lit up with the same phrase, repeated across 1,000 tongues. The humans stopped when they didn't have to. One alien commander, chest bound in medical foam, stared up at a human nurse. You killed 9,000 of us, he rasped. The nurse adjusted his oxygen line and saved the rest. Retention microspike. They expected vengeance. They found procedure. On the bridge, Vance's display showed the live broadcast feeds streaming to billions, each one verified and authenticated by the Terran Neutrality Council. The footage was raw, unfiltered. Medics tending the wounded, engineers rebuilding life support for captured ships, human officers reciting tribunal rights in translated Dominion dialects. Public response? Ward asked. Vance scanned the updates. Outcry on Dominion worlds. Half disbelief, half shame. Civil sectors demanding investigation. He nodded. Then it's working. For centuries, the Dominion had declared itself the galaxy's civilizer, the one force above savagery. But now, as its survivors lay aboard human medbays, that myth was dying under white light and steady hands. Ward turned to the external viewport. Beyond the glass, custodian med vessels drifted among the wreckage like silent shepherds, their bay doors open, lights pulsing faint blue. The field of ruin had become a hospital. "Commander," Vance said, "Imperial transmission incoming, unsecured." Their acting chancellor requests direct communication. Ward's tone stayed measured. "Open channel." The holographic image of a Dominion dignitary flickered to life, gaunt and hollow-eyed. "Human commander," the voice trembled, "you have conquered by restraint. What do you intend to do with us?" Ward considered the question before answering. "We intend to remember. You will stand trial. Your civilians will live, and when history records this day, it will say humanity chose justice over rage." The dignitary bowed his head. "You, Seamus?" Ward's eyes softened, but his voice didn't. "Good. Shame rebuilds faster than empires. Retention microspike. Restraint spreads further than Fire.news networks across 5,000 systems. Cut their scheduled programming to show the live feed from the Iron Rain. Viewers saw the human commander, walking between rows of alien wounded, hands clasped behind his back, expression unreadable. His ship had killed nearly 10,000 vessels in 6 minutes, but here, in the aftermath, it had saved millions. "Sir," Vance said, "the Outer Council is voting on emergency recognition. They're labeling this event the Mercy Protocols." Ward gave a slow nod. "They'll need a name for what they can't yet understand." He stepped forward to the central command dais. "Broadcast one final message." "Ready," said Vance. Ward's voice went out across the stars, calm, final, undeniable. "To every world watching, this is what power looks like when it remembers why it fights. This is humanity's doctrine of response. We strike when struck. We stop when balance returns. And we heal what's left." The broadcast ended. For the first time in recorded history, a fleet that had won total dominance sent no victory anthem. Only medical reports and recovery logs. In the med bays, the hum of machines filled the silence between lives saved. The Dominion's wounded began to realize what the galaxy already knew. The humans weren't the monsters they feared. They were the mirror they'd forgotten to face. The galaxy slept uneasily after Kareth Gate. Empires rebuilt. Broadcasts replayed humanity's restraint as myth and warning. The Dominion survivors called it the Day of Balance, a wound sealed with mercy. But in the cold beyond mapped space, past the outer rim's dust rings and silent nebulae, something ancient listened. Inside the Iron Rain's deep space sensor core, the silence broke. "Commander," Vance said, her voice low, uncertain, "we're picking up gravitational fluctuations beyond the Perseus Drift, 80 light-years outside all patrol zones." Ward didn't turn. "Natural?" She shook her head. "Patterned, repeating intervals. 3 pulses every 60 seconds. Not random." He crossed the deck, eyes on the holographic display as it bloomed into light. The image was distant, grainy even under magnification, but clear enough. An energy lattice awakening inside a dead system, solar mass interference off the scale. Retention microspike. "Extinction doesn't rest. It waits. Signature match?" Ward asked. Vance hesitated. "Partial resonance to classified archives. Cycle year 2174. The fall of Epsilon Vega." The bridge went still. That battle hadn't been spoken of in decades. The last exterminator fleet, the machines that had culled half a sector before burning out, was supposed to be dead. Supposed to be. Ward straightened. "Signal origin?" "Coordinates align with Outer Rim Quarantine Zone Theta 13. No colonized systems within 200 light-years. Power readings? Rising exponentially. Initial estimate, 2,000 reactor signatures dormant until now. Across the ship, data screens recalibrated as more pulses came through, each wave stronger, more deliberate, carrying a structure no natural source could mimic. The pattern encoded coordinates, velocity, and a single repeating phrase across subspace. Clarification cycle resumed. Ward's hand tightened behind his back. "Broadcast link to Fleet Command. Priority Alpha," Vance complied. "Channel open. This is Commander Ward aboard the Iron Rain, confirming new activity beyond the rim. Possible reactivation of exterminator constructs. Transmission contains recognizable linguistic cadence. The reply came seconds later. Confirmed receipt. Fleet intelligence advises continued observation. No engagement, Ward frowned. Observation didn't save Vega. Retention microspike. The enemy always sleeps long enough for arrogance to bloom. Outside the viewport, the stars were cold, perfect, unaware. The custodian fleet hung in distant formation, still guarding the humanitarian corridors they had forged days before. Ward keyed encrypted command frequency. All custodian captains mark current position as line 1. Prepare long-range scans. We may be watching history restart. Vance's console flickered. Sir, new data incoming, pulse density increased. Gravitational waves forming concentric symmetry. Estimated structure size. Half a planetary orbit. Ward's eyes hardened. That's no debris field, she looked up. Then what is it? He stared at the holographic projection. The lattice was expanding, like veins of light branching across darkness, each node pulsing with rhythm. Not chaotic, purposeful, alive. Commander, Vance whispered, it's scanning us. All at once, the rain sensor arrays went white. Static bled across every display. Then, beneath the interference came a voice. Not sound, translation. An automated construct formed from quantum drift patterns. Observation complete. Cycle failed. Clarification required. Ward's pulse didn't change. Record it. No response. The transmission repeated twice, then ceased. Silence returned, but it wasn't peace. The system's dead stars burned with faint, unnatural light, the kind only civilization leaves behind. Commander, Vance said softly. How many units total? He studied the numbers stabilizing on screen. 72,000 confirmed reactor cores. Thousands of hulls, and they're moving. Retention microspike. Every mercy invites its test. Ward turned from the screen. The reflection of his ship mirrored against the growing lattice. Transmit all data to Fleet Command and Custodian Command. Classify threat level Omega. Request immediate expansion of the Horizon Protocol. Acknowledged. Vance hesitated, glancing at the endless pattern blooming across the void. Do you think it's coincidence, sir? That it wakes right after they see what we did? No, he said quietly. Predators follow peace. Always. Outside, the lattice flared once more, the pulse stretching through subspace until even distant colonies felt its tremor. Worlds paused. News anchors stuttered mid-broadcast. Every ship, every satellite caught the same haunting signal repeating through the void. Clarification required. Ward's voice was calm as iron. Then we'll answer it. On our terms. He looked one last time at the drifting stars, their light bending through the pulse wave like memory through water. Signal all ships. Maintain silent readiness. The doctrine of response extends beyond the rim now. The hum of engines deepened, the crew watching as distant stars flickered under the weight of something vast awakening. Humanity had given the galaxy mercy, and the universe had answered with a question. Retention microspike. Peace was never the end. It was the invitation.